Hey everyone, Atlas here. Today I'm talking my portion of the Nexus at Night Springfest before deck list. So, much like Root Beer, I'm doing a deck profile of Magnolia for Stoicheia, which is what I'm bringing to the online Springfest. And we're going to do like a before and after. So, hopefully, after I scrub out after like round four, then you can have a deck profile that lost some weight. So I'm not going to go over the individual effects of each card because you should basically know what they did. Like, I'm not going to read them outright. I'll kind of explain my choices. Uh, I'm also going to have the screenshot of the deck list just on the screen for you to look at so you can pause if you want it instead of having to watch me go, okay, here's three things, here's two things. So in terms of my choices, aside from the ride line, which that pretty much writes itself, I'm going to start with my trigger choices. So I went with 8 crit and 3 draw, essentially 4 if you count the over trigger. My reason for this was that instead of wanting to do fronts, I did draws just because the deck having to make a board every turn in order to put pressure on the opponent makes it weak to things like Prison and Eugene, which I probably aren't going to be many things that I run into, but it's still a thing that I might run into, and therefore it seems like the more prudent choice to go with draws instead of fronts. Fronts would make more sense if I had a better resource engine, which Stoicheia has a little bit of a problem with. There's no countercharging outside of that one order that makes you like kill 2 rear guards to get a countercharge out of it, so that's not really worth running. Instead, it's just an easier time to just run draws, and then you can use them for things like discarding for the ride line, or in the case of calling off the top of deck for skills, it's not as much of a loss than calling something with a 15k shield. Even if that was the case, though, there's also 4 copies of Ghost Chase, which is the order that lets you guard for 5k and then bounce something. This has come in handy a lot more than I thought it was going to. In the case of things like my grade 1 and 2 in the ride line that call off the top of deck, and Cyrus, who is a 1 of, you can see him near the bottom right there. It allows you to recycle things like Perfect Guards or triggers that were called off the top of the deck, or also Mantis, which is a huge part of our pressure. The important part here is to make enough of a board to just kind of throw at your opponent. A lot of your pressure is done by just kind of throwing warm bodies at the wall. There are games where I've had a huge hand because my opponent doesn't attack my rear guard, so I just kind of have anywhere between 4 and 6 attacks per turn, which in this early stage of the game is a big deal. I run Spiritual Body Condensation and the Girl with the Whip, the grade 2, because Counterblast is important for Magnolia and also for Glow Nipples on the side there. So I figured Spiritual Body Condensation essentially does the same thing as Whip Girl, but Condensation does not cost a Counterblast, whereas Whip Girl does, but she is a Counterblast with legs. So it's a bit of a trade-off in those cases. I've seen people just go full Condensation or just run 4 Whip Girl. I did a 2-2 split. So far, that's working out fine for me. In terms of the rest of the grade 2 lineup, the second of the goat and the tiger that Matt called a zebra for some reason are just kind of there because there's no real better options right now. We're getting stuff in set 2 that are easily going to replace these, but in the meantime, Tiger becomes a 15k beater if you have almost a full board, and the goat, much like Glow Nipples, gets a boost if you attack from back row. But instead of gaining the power of something else with it, it gains 10k from just the effect by itself, but it's a Soul Blast instead of a Counterblast. Glow Nipples is more or less your finisher. That's going to be your last attack of the Persona Ride turn, and you're going to choose something that either is getting the Persona Ride bonus that you put a trigger on, or just even something small, like, let's say, Magnolia chose Bulbasaur, the grade 1 from the ride line, and gave it 5k, and then he's 18k on his own, and then that would make Glow Nipples hit 28k, which is hitting numbers on the opponent. You run the PG that is free if you have not very much of a hand, because why wouldn't you? The reason it's split into two there was I only pulled 2 hollows in my case split, so that's what I'm stuck with. There's Cyrus, who is a one-of. I'm trying this as a tech. You only will use it realistically once per game, but his effect is you Soul Blast 2 and you can call the top card of the deck and give it 5k, which, I don't know, it's a free card. It's essentially something that you can leave in the back and then occasionally use the effect if you've been Persona writing consistently. I feel like once the Elephant comes out, he's going to get a lot better. In the meantime, he's just kind of there as a tech, so I don't know if he's going to earn his keep during this tournament or if he's going to be something where I regret it. But it's not like I'm expecting to do well. Hell, this is Nexus at night. You know we suck. And then I think that's pretty much it in terms of explaining my deck choices. I don't really have much else. So far, it's been testing pretty well, even against things like Prison. It takes some careful playing where you want to hold your stuff back if you know that you can just go for one burst turn, because having them imprison your board early means that they get their triple drive early, which means they get more cards early, which means they can block your onslaught early. So I recommend just holding off. Try and abuse those free, like, call off the top of the deck effects and just use them to throw stuff at the wall, see what sticks. There have been a few times where I've called the perfect guard off of my effect, and then I bounce it with Ghost Chase, and now I get a free PG. Ghost Chase is probably going to be a thing for a while, as long as we continue having effects that call from top of deck. Just the top card, not the top 3, like that Ferret. So that's pretty much all I have to say about the deck. I think it'll do okay, but this is me we're talking about. I'm not exactly the one who goes very far by himself. So we'll see what happens. I wish Root Beer and I good luck. Matt didn't want to do a before and after profile because I think he watched the premium videos and he was like, all right, fuck this. I'm not sitting around for 12 hours because he's on East Coast time. So it'll be at like 8 p.m. when it starts on the Friday night. He's not staying up all night for that. So forget it. I hope you enjoyed the deck profile. Let's see how it turns out afterward. Leave a like, leave a comment, support us on Patreon, all that good stuff. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.